And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Road to Revenue LinkedIn Live with Factors.ai. Here we have a SEO celebrity who has run SEO for multiple companies, and most importantly, his LinkedIn tagline itself goes with SEO for revenue, not just for vanity metrics. Very warm welcome to Sam Dunning. Sam, thanks a lot for making time to talk to us. Welcome here.
Cheers, Sri. Looking forward to the chat. Thanks for having me on, man.
Awesome. So I think Sam, everyone knows Sam pretty well. He's been running a pretty awesome podcast around breaking B2B, and he's quite a LinkedIn celebrity as well. But for the value for our own users and for the attention for other things, Sam, if you can just give a brief introduction about yourself and also your journey through SEO, website design, and also podcasting.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll give the short, snappy version, and feel free to dive in more if you wish. So yeah, I'm founder at breakingb2b.com, and yeah, we essentially run B2B SEO and B2B web design campaigns for revenue, not vanity. I also host, as you mentioned, the top 10 B2B marketing podcast, Breaking B2B, where we interview marketing practitioners, so VPs of marketing, CEOs, founders, CMOs, and get their battle-tested tips on what's working today that you can actually action when it comes to your own tech or B2B marketing campaigns. And we also have solo episodes there where I'll share tips around what's working today in SEO, web design, your go-to-market, and more. How did I get into it? Well, I've probably been messing around with websites and SEO for about 13 or so years now. And when I first went to a web agency 13 or so years ago, I basically got thrown in at the deep end tree. So I got chucked in as a jack of all trades. In fact, a brief funny story that I've shared on a couple podcasts is I got thrown in as almost like a sales rep, stroke project manager, stroke building websites and wireframing and helping the design and dev team, stroke account manager. So basically everything in one. And on either my first or second day, 13 years ago at this web agency, they used to buy in leads. So they bought a lead. They told me to speak to this lead on the phone. And I had no clue how to sell. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. And it turned out this guy, this inquiry that we got, wanted a website similar to LinkedIn. So I had no clue what to ask for, what to do. I just said yes to every request that he asked for. And I ended up selling the equivalent of LinkedIn for about £500, which is about $700, which anyone knows the scale of LinkedIn. It's probably worth several million, if not more, to design and build. And thank God, this guy a few weeks later decided that he didn't actually want the LinkedIn website anymore, and we could kind of ship it off to a couple smaller sites. But that's probably one of the most biggest mistakes that I ever made when I first started, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But thankfully, over the years, I've learned a bit more. And yeah, now we tend to work with B2B tech, B2B service companies on their SEO or their websites.
That's great. I think one of the reasons why we really wanted to have this podcast and specifically focusing on SEO and organic is this just gets forgotten. And almost multiple companies, we have worked in the past with Freshworks. Freshworks was built on SEO organic for a very long time, of course, apart from ads as well, but close to almost $50 million in the first revenue they actually got through inbound channels, which was there. Zoho was another biggie, which actually started off very well with SEO. And there are multiple others like Keslo and others in our own backyard in India, which got built on SEO. But somewhere in the VC funded craze, which happened post-COVID 2020 onwards and this thing, the focus completely shifted to kind of like, let's spend on ads primarily and Google search marketing. And the ad spends, PPCs have also started going up. But what has happened is, in a sense, a level of impatience with founders. Founders are not patient enough to say that, okay, let me build a proper audience. Let me help get people into my website, understand what my product does. What is the solution? What is the value prop? How are we better than competitors and alternatives? Just basically went out of the window where like they just started asking for immediate results. Even worse, since they were asking for immediate results, the end output also kind of like they went further and further away from SEO, saying that, okay, SEO or organic will take 6 months, maybe 12 months for something to stabilize. Let's not do that. Let's go after immediate results. And That, in a sense, became a death knell for multiple companies until they realized SEO is important and going back to the basics kind of this thing. So at a fundamental level, if you can just articulate and help understand like why is SEO and organic very, very important for any B2B company? And most importantly, what are the hurdles both mentally and also starting off like from a founder level, what do they actually have to cross to get SEO start working?
Yeah. So there's a few points. You're exactly right. SEO often gets neglected. It's often one of the last boxes you check when it comes to your go-to-market strategy, especially in recent years. Because like you said, a lot of startups, they want to hit the ground running super fast. They want to drive demos quick. And they often believe that SEO is not a channel to do that, which in many cases is not the case. But they go with what they know and the devil they know, let's say. So like you said, they'll often invest cash in paid ads, typically Google paid search, then maybe move to LinkedIn and similar. And they'll quite often go outbound heavy. So they'll hire a bunch of SDRs or BDRs and kind of go full guns blazing, fire up the email sequences, fire up the cold calls, and look to break into accounts that way. And like you said, organic search just takes a back seat because as soon as the exec team hear that, well, it might take within 90 days or so to see impact, then they're like, well, no, we've got VCs on our back. That ain't going to cut it. So let me start with why SEO is not going to be a fit, and then we can talk about why it will be. So SEO, probably not the best fit for you if you're a brand new category, i.e. you're defining a new market that doesn't have demand to capture on Google simply because your target clients, your dream prospects don't know that your sector exists or your product exists. Therefore, there might not be enough traffic to capture on Google because people aren't typing like your service, your product, your solution. They're not searching for the problems you fix because they're not actually aware that offers in the market. So in that case, SEO might not be the best bet. You're probably better understanding kind of where your ICP hangs out and building content around the problems you solve and educating them where they are today until the market becomes a bit more in demand. Then SEO might make more sense. Likewise, if you're super early stage and you've not got a bit of time or resource in-house to make it work, i.e. to build out the website, build out a content strategy, start doing off-page SEO, like acquiring links and that kind of stuff, or you haven't got the cash to invest with a contractor or team to do that for you, then again, SEO is not probably going to be the best match. But a lot of companies now, they're starting off in markets that have demand. So building out in sectors that are known, and the chances are you are in a sector that has market demand. Prospects are probably searching for your offer, your service, the problem you fix on Google. And so SEO would make sense from that standpoint because there is prospects to capture to drive to your website and drive demos or sales calls or whatever that end call to action is. But there's a bunch of lesser known reasons why SEO works. So one of the most powerful reasons for using SEO is it's evergreen. So just like when you go on YouTube and maybe you search like how to do something. So recently when I upgraded my camera for my podcast studio, I was searching like, I don't know, how to connect an SLR to your PC to stream in high quality. You might see videos from a couple of weeks ago, but likewise, you'll see videos from months or even years ago, and they're still ranking top. And SEO is just the same. You can see solution pages, service pages, articles that were recent and written in a few months, or likewise ones from years ago. So SEO can be working, organic search results can be working not just now, but for months and years to come to drive quality traffic, and on the basis that you're building out pages that are building trust, showing proof and kind of converting, then they can drive inbound ops, not just now, but for years to come. That's often forgotten.
That's actually quite obvious also, right? It's like something like it's a bamboo stalk where like you start playing the putting in the harvest, and over a period of time, it's something that's a perennial harvest. You can continuously keep harvesting it over a period of time. One article with the links and this thing always makes sense. And that's something which a lot of bootstrapped companies, when they acknowledge, or when funding was scarce, it was also more easier for people to not easily hire SDRs or put through fancy outbound sequencing tools, or even pay for like $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000 in terms of Google ads on a monthly basis, which is there. Given that you wanted to work on SEO, which is there. But let's just take a step back into the whole this thing. I saw a recent post which you had put on LinkedIn where you very, very clearly talked about like the most hardest part of SEO is getting the internal buy-in, because CEOs actually kind of want results fast. They want to see like if a marketer or anyone is coming in, okay, when are you going to get me leads? They don't want to wait for, let's say, like 6 months or 12 months. And on the other hand, most SEO experts, when they talk about SEO and other thing, they talk about like it's a 12-month game, it's an 18-month game, which is more long-term strategy. But the interesting thing about your post, which is barely an hour back, which is basically about like what you said is like what you can do to get a well-executed SEO within the first 90 days. And that's something which is pretty interesting, because 90 days is a quarter. Companies can invest 90 days and wait for it. And that's something which we can actually get buy-in. So if you can help us explain for both startups or even B2B SaaS companies, even if they are established and this thing, how do they get started with a well-executed SEO strategy within the first 90 days?
Yeah, great question. So there's a few things to consider. The first is stripping this back to the bare basics. And this is a bit of customer research, stroke defining quote unquote money keywords and the target markets that you want to actually drive qualified sales leads or qualified demos through the door. So one of the first things that you want to think about is basics. So what are the industries that we serve best? What are the markets that we really want to be doing business with? This is pretending we've kind of got some kind of product market fit. We know who our ICP is. Who are those industries that have the frustrating and expensive problems that we fix? They understand it's a problem. They understand the impact of not fixing it. But most importantly, they have the cash to actually invest in our offer. Because I don't know about you, Sri, but I've made the mistake in years gone by going after all kinds of different industries and markets. They might have, like the prospects I was speaking to might have believed it.
They might be interesting.
They might be interested, but they don't have the money when they go to leadership to try and get buy-in. It just doesn't work. So you need to make sure those industries actively understand it's a problem, believe they want to fix it, but have cash to invest in it. So this is something I did recently for our own site, breakingb2b.com. What I did was I defined every market we want to serve. So in our case, like B2B SaaS, fintech, maybe construction companies, maybe financial companies, made a list of all of those. So I fired up Google Sheets, made a list, one column. These are the industries that are those money niches we want to serve. Next up was the offers. So the actual 1, 2, 3 core offers. So that'll be relevant to what your offer is, whether your proposal solution, whether your calendar scheduling solution, I don't know, whatever else you may be. In our case, that was SEO, web design as those next columns. And then the others is the modifier that you're going to add on to, because you're basically building out long tail, what we call money keywords. So in our case, it was what would go at the end of that might be agency, but in your case, the last part of it might be software, tool, solution, whatever makes sense. So we're building out what we call money long tail keywords. This is what our prospects aren't searching for fun. They're probably not going to find a detailed how-to blog article, but they're probably going to land on either a solution-based page or they're going to land on maybe a listicle, depending on the intent behind the search on Google. We can get into that in a sec. So basically, we're defining the industry, plus our offer, plus whatever modifier at the end, solution, service, tool, software, makes sense. As an example, as a tangible example, this is quite literally what I did for breakingb2b.com to rank B2B SEO agency. It's now organic #1. We did that within 90 days on a brand new domain just by doing this process. And that cost per click's like £20 or so in the US. So it saves you a ton of cash. So what we did after you define those money keywords, and there's a few other money keywords that you want to consider. If you're SaaS, then some other keywords that you can snap up quickly within 90 days might be alternative keywords. So making a list of those top competitors. So going on to G2, Capterra, whatever's relevant to your industry. And that might be, I don't know, if you're in the proposal software game, sorry, not the proposal software. If you're in the calendar scheduling game, you might have alternatives like Chili Piper alternative, Calendly alternative, Revenue Hero alternatives. You know the classics. I'm sure in your game, Sri, you know most of your alternatives.
We would have Clearbit or Lead Feeder or Lead Forensics or the likes of attribution tools which are there, Visible, Marketo, and other things. So we can work on those.
Got it. So add those into your money keyword list. And then also you might want to do some versus keywords, which would be relevant if you've been around a while and folks might compare you to an alternative. Think of, when it comes to keyword research, defining money keywords, think of what you do as a buyer. Like, you're not going to automatically search for something, then book a demo, and then buy. You're going to weigh up your options, right? You're going to compare, you're going to see what else is on the market, you're going to evaluate, then you're probably going to talk to your peers. Maybe you'll watch a podcast about or a video, try and get some more information. And then eventually, once you've chatted to your peers, you'll evaluate it, then you'll decide. So SEO plays a piece of the puzzle, as does retargeting, as does ads. So back to the point, let's say we've defined our money keywords for the main industries and offers. Maybe if we're SaaS, we've looked at alternatives and versus keywords. Maybe also we've looked at best, i.e. you do what we just said there, but you add best at the front load. So it might be best calendar scheduling for sales teams, best calendar scheduling for logistics companies, etc. So you've looked at the relevant modifiers. You've put them through tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush to check they've got a bit of traffic, and we'll probably go for the lowest keyword difficulty ones first. So we've got those ready. Now we want to build a page that's actually going to rank. So what we do is very simple process. Some say this doesn't work. I know it works because I've literally done it myself many times. It's a tweak to an old technique called the skyscraper technique. So simplest way, you quite literally type one of those keywords into Google. In my case, for our company, it was B2B SEO agency. Yours might be, I don't know, best calendar scheduling tool or best calendar scheduling.
Visitor identification tools or attribution tools such as that.
Yep. Or what was one of your competitor? Clearbit. So maybe Clearbit alternatives.
Or lead feeder alternatives.
Or lead feeder alternatives. Yeah. So let's say we type in your case, lead feeder alternatives. That's probably the intent behind that keyword is probably going to bring up listicles. So it's probably going to be like top 15 lead feeder alternatives or top 20. And probably a lot of those results are comparison sites like G2 or Capterra or whatever's relevant to your niche. So what we understand straight away is the intent behind that search is a listicle. Prospects search that, they expect an article listicle. But on the flip side, for my company, B2B SEO agency, that brought up solution page. So people expect a service or solution page. So first, understand the intent, what's expected. Secondly, look at the top 1, 2, 3 organic non-paid results. How detailed are they? This is where we need to get a bit creative and we need to note down how those pages are structured. So let's say if we're going for lead feeder alternatives, let's say for example's sake, the top one is 10 alternatives to consider. And maybe it's got a couple paragraphs on kind of what a tool like this, visitor identification, does, why you should consider it, etc. So we want to blow this page out of the water. We want to make the best page that's available on the internet. So instead of doing top 10, we're going to go top 20. We're going to double what's on there. We're going to make it literally as useful as possible. We're going to few basic technical things in the keyword. It might be the actual domain structure of this page might be yourdomain.com/lead feeder hyphen alternatives. Then your H1 has probably got lead feeder alternatives within it, your heading tag, and it might be within H2 and H3. And then the content at the start will do a nice intro. This is why you should consider visitor identification software. This is the problem if you don't do it. This is why you should consider it. This is how it helps. We'll position our offer in that listicle as number 1, but it will be unbiased. It's not going to be like tons and tons of talk of how amazing, how great we are. It will more be like, this is typically why folks come to us. This is usually the problem they face. This is the implication if they don't fix it. And here's the solution. Here's how we bring results to the table. Here's a screenshot or a video of our demo of our product in action. Like, let's show screenshots. We don't want a blog that's just a wall of text. We're going to make sure the text is nicely broken down on this blog. Visually, it looks nice on our mobile or our PC. It's got screenshots. It's got examples. It then might have a quote from a customer, like a testimonial with a picture of their face. This is the VP of marketing at this tech company. Here's the problem, and here's the result they brought within that testimonial. Or maybe there's a video snapshot. And then a call to action, like, are you struggling with this issue? Book your free demo to run through it, or watch your video demo, whatever call to action is relevant. And then we'll have a fair comparison right up for those other 19 competitors. So we've done a super detailed page for that. But likewise, in my case, looking at a different case study, so B2B SEO agency, that keyword was a solution page. In that case, I had to evaluate how that page was structured by my competitors at an organic top. That was more, here's a hero area with the main keyword in the H1, and here's a call to action. Here's why you should consider SEO. Here's the process, and here's a couple FAQs. So in my case, I again had to blow that page out the water. So I had a hero area with a call to action and the main keyword in the H1, but then I had a video rundown. So I made a dedicated YouTube video for the process. Like, here's 5 ways that you can make B2B SEO work for your company. Good thing about embedding a video in the top of your page is sometimes they rank better, and sometimes that video screenshot can be shown in the search engine results page to improve your click-through rate in organic. And uploading a video to YouTube within your target keyword can show in the video section on YouTube itself. So you can get 2 results within the SERP. For example, if you Google B2B SEO or B2B SEO guide, you'll see 3 of my videos in the video section on Google, as well as my organic page. Awesome. So you can literally dominate the SERPs of organic. And then, I did the same for B2B SEO agency. I just blew the other pages out of the water. I made my page more detailed. I shared our trade secrets. I shared everything we know. I shared more examples and proof of results. But my tip for solution pages is at the bottom of the page, have a detailed FAQ section. But don't just do generic FAQs like everyone does. Do FAQs that other companies are too scared to share. So in my case, I literally ripped FAQs from what I get asked on sales calls, like, why are you guys so expensive? Isn't Google Ads quicker than SEO? How long does it take to see results with SEO? Do I get an account manager? Why should I even trust you? And just addressed all those FAQs head on. And then this really attacks EEAT, Experience, Expertise, Authority, Trust, that Google looks for in pages from the recent helpful content update, because it shows it's written by someone who knows their stuff. They're authoritative in the sector. It's trustworthy because we've got those client review videos. We've got social proof. We've got examples. We've got screenshots. Maybe we've got video demos. And we've got clear call to action. So that is a quick breakdown of understanding the intent of pages and building best-in-class pages. And we can talk about link building in a minute.
This is a 90-day plan.
This is the first part. So the advantage you've got if you're a startup, so let's go with this as a B2B startup, is you want to, once you've defined all those money keywords we talked about earlier, you made an exhaustive list, you want to start publishing these pages at scale. The advantage you've got over giants, because like yourself, you probably faced the same, Sri. I faced the same when I started my company. There's giants in the sector that have probably got way more resource, way more headcount, way more cash in the bank, way more VC funding. But the giants, especially in SaaS, have way more red tape. So they might think of a keyword, think of a page, but they'll take 2 to 3 months to get it signed off because it has to go through legal, has to go through all these other hoops. Whereas as a startup, we can define our money keywords, we can review the competitors, we can one-up the competitors in every way, and we can publish these pages at scale. So if you can publish content at scale, that is your unfair advantage as a startup. We can just start going this at a rapid pace, so we can build out all these pages as quickly as possible. Once we've launched them and once we've published them, they may not rank. It may be that we think, we've missed a thing or two on that page. We actually could have added a few more FAQs. We could have added some more examples. We could have added some unique stats. Okay, let's do it. Let's update the page, make it a bit more helpful and useful. If it's still not ranking, say 30 or so days later, that's when you might want to look to build backlinks. So you might want to acquire some decent links. And there's 4 or 5 ways that I can share to build backlinks for free that will juice up these pages.
Actually, I'll just take one side step to actually summarize, because we started with the 90-day plan and for CEOs to get trust, buy-in so that they can invest instead of worrying about very short-term results where they want to blow up their ad spend money or marketing dollars into just Google PPC ads, which is there. It's like, identify your industry, identify the markets you are playing with. That's the first important thing. Then identify, given that SEO works very well when there is an established market and there are a lot of competitors, some giants, some whales, some other similar level companies, or even other things. So you can establish multiple alternatives. So you can look at, like, let's say if you're looking at Factors.ai, like Factors.ai solves for account intelligence, account identification, account journeys, attribution, B2B attribution, and LinkedIn campaign management. So around these things, which are the other competitors, build a list of competitors, build alternatives, options about these competitors and the keywords which work. Test the keywords around SEMrush and Ahref, which is something which you talked about. And then you start building and launching pages. That's an unfair advantage which you have as a startup than compared to a very large company which is there. And then you can start getting traffic in. And if you don't have traffic in which is in there, then you can also start buying links. That's something which we'll deep dive into, like how do you start looking at putting up backlinks and all. But a couple of interesting notes also which you mentioned is like having video screenshots or having a YouTube layer along with after the H1 which is there, so that it will show up better on a Google search keyword, and then it improves the click-through rate as well, which were on the tactic side and other this thing. And this is a kind of like a first initial part of the 90-day plan for you to get started with SEOs.
And you touched on something useful as well there, Shri, is you might have, in my money keyword part, one thing I missed is you might have useful data to tap into as well. So as well as doing kind of industry-based keywords, alternative comparison keywords, etc., if relevant, if you've ran Google paid search already, if you've ran Google AdWords, you may already have data on what keywords perform well. And those top performing keywords that are driving demos, that are driving booked calls, then you might want to tap into some of those, but from an organic search perspective.
Awesome.
So using
so
any of
that's
that
in a way where
well.
like how the paid search and the organic SEO strategy come together in a sense. How is that?
Yeah. Because if you know that like a few keywords on your paid search are performing super well to drive demos, then it makes sense to kind of build out some of those pages from an organic search perspective as well.
Got it. And one more thing which was pretty interesting. I mean, the video absolutely makes sense. Almost, it's like if you're making a page, just don't make a listicle page which is there or alternatives page. Start giving some videos. It ranks better on search results. It also comes with the video along the side. It improves the click-through rates. Absolutely makes sense. The other thing which you also made a lot of interesting points is around FAQs. Go deep into the FAQs. Go into actual FAQs. I mean, go hard on yourself in terms of like get your hard questions answered straight away on FAQ, because one, it builds a lot more trust for any reader and a lot more value, but more importantly, it also ranks better with Google search, which is something which is generally sometimes when people put things on their website, they are kind of conservative or kind of cautionary in terms of like how they even phrase anything negative or something, but rather take it head on and other this thing. That was a very good point which is there. And once you get started with all these things, I just wanted to take a side step also to understand. And your FAQ part actually was pretty interesting for me to actually understand this. It's like be brutal and this thing. So I'm going to ask the same questions which any CEO is going to ask. It's like you talked about a couple of tools, which is like Ahrefs or SEMrush. You talked about like either bringing in an agency, etc., to start working on running that SEO and other this thing. And third, you also talked about like buying backlinks. What is it going to cost for the first 3 months or the first 6 months to get this started?
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to buy backlinks. So I can share with you, if we've got time, some ways that you can build these for free. What's it going to cost? Well, it depends, right? Like, so it depends on your resources in-house. So if you've got someone that is an industry expert that's got the time to write out these pages and has some basic SEO expertise.
Let's say we don't have, let's say the company doesn't have SEO and the thing, what would it be?
Then you've got a couple options. You can either pay an agency, which is going to be anywhere from a few grand a month, or you can hire freelance folks with expertise in each sector. So maybe you hire someone to do the basic kind of keyword research, maybe with the help of your team and understanding your ICP. Then you hire a couple content writers to publish at scale, and then maybe you have a kind of technical SEO that's doing maybe an ad hoc few hours to make sure the pages kind of hit the technical SEO things like the URL structure, the heading tags, the page format, and kind of the page speed, etc., is up to scratch. So you probably could do it relatively low cost. If you again, it's going to take you a bit of time to get contractors with each area of expertise, to get the good content writers, etc. But that would probably save you a bit, or you could obviously use an agency like ours that's anywhere from a few grand.
That's interesting, because that's something which any CEO in his mind, he's going to weigh this alongside, like, let's say if I'm going to spend on an event like SaaSter, which is going to be like $50,000 at the minimum, or a booth or something, or like if I have to start spending on paid ads, even that I would need to either bring in a full-time demand generation manager, or we would need to work with an agency, which will also be a few grand a month, plus the ad spends, which will be like 5 to 10 grand a month. Compared to it, it's like, what would it be for me to start the SEO, to run it parallelly for 6 months to see how the results are coming in and other this thing. That's one thing which any CEO is saying. And thanks for answering that. It's like, let's say a couple of grand a month, like $3,000 to $5,000 a month would be a good starting point for running SEOs, including writing articles and pushing out articles, working around with SEMrush, etc. The second question, which is there, is like, for any CEO, while you can say like the results take 90 days to come out, what is a good result? For example, let's say an SEO optimized or a company which is running good organic for the first 1 year from starting up, what would be the good level of saying that this is a good organic traffic which is there, or scale of organic traffic? This is something like we feel like they have had so many articles on their website, they have so much blogs published, and they are ranking on these things. These are the metrics to say that SEO is working. What would it be?
Yeah. So there's a few things. I mean, to give you some examples, using the breakdown that we did just now, so the alternative keywords, like we did for there's a leadership software company we work with in the B2B SaaS space, and we did that process, right? We just went on G2 to find their top 10 competitors, worked out kind of the problems they fixed that set them apart, their differentiators, listed that on the page. We got them kind of organic position 1. That was in around 30 days for some of those main keywords. So that was driving like high intent demos in the first 45 days or so. Mm-hmm. So that is a bit of an exception. That's not always going to be the rate, always going to be the state of play, especially if you've got kind of tons of competitors that maybe have been doing this a lot longer than you. Their space was a bit more niche than some SaaS spaces, so it's a little bit easier, to be frank. But that just shows you that that's some of the impact you can have. But the thing is, if you're running paid search already, and you know some of these keywords that are performing and that are driving inbound, and if you're building best-in-class organic content that does all those things we talked about, and then juicing it up with some decent backlinks, then you almost know that this is going to drive a certain amount of inbound. So if we can hit that top spot, secure that real estate on Google, both with paid search and organic search, we've got 2 bites of the cherry, maybe 3 bites of the cherry if we've got a video section ranking as well. So we know it's almost proven that once we get that spot, it's going to drive inbound. It's more of a case of when are we going to do it, and how aggressively can we hit every one of these keywords and build out this content to attack that bottom of the funnel. All of what we've talked about so far has been bottom of the funnel SEO. There is kind of a play for top of funnel SEO, but you always want to focus on kind of sales ready leads initially, and what are folks searching when they're comparing you or ready to discuss your solution now.
Got it. That's interesting. So coming to the next topic, which I think something we just left a little bit, is like, how do you scale the traffic? That is, once you have the listicles and you have the articles, everything on play, and the thing is like, how do you scale the traffic pretty well? And you talked about some backlinks, and there are very efficient or zero cost methods of increasing traffic. So if you can take us through that, that will be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So let's pretend that we've exhausted kind of every page for every main offer, every alternative, etc. Maybe that's 20 pages, maybe that's 30, 40, 50 pages, whatever is relevant. And then let's pretend that you want to kind of scale things up. Perhaps we're struggling, perhaps we're in position 5, position 7, whatever, and we want to ramp that up. So maybe we look to acquire some links, which is even more relevant when you get to more generic keywords and more competitive terms. So one of my favorite ways to build links, which I actually did with you folks, I did with a bunch of other partners and a bunch of other companies, is I reach out to prospects, friends, partners, clients, contacts in my network that serve a similar client profile, serve a similar ICP, but are not direct competitors. And just reach out to whoever manages their marketing or content or whoever it may be, and just say, look, I've got a bit of an unusual way to help us both drive some traffic, drive some inbound. Are you against a conversation? I'm a big fan of, when it comes to cold outreach, of not spamming people with 10 paragraph outreach pitches, painfully short messages that open the curiosity gap. Got a bit of an unusual idea to scale inbound and traffic. Are you against a convo? That's literally what I'll say. Usually they'll respond. It's got a very high response rate. And then I'll say, look, I'm happy to create some content for you that you can publish on your site in return for a do follow backlink. So in my case, with breakingb2b.com, I wanted to get B2B SEO agency top. So I wrote content that was relevant for that. So I approached a bunch of folks like yourselves, approached Justin Rose Agency, Impactable, a bunch of kind of tech, SaaS, B2B companies, and basically said, look, I can write a article that's going to be relevant for your audience, that's going to be helpful and useful, whether it's about your website, whether it's about SEO, whether it's about go-to-market, whether it's about B2B marketing. I can write it as long as I can get a link back that's contextual, that's relevant to my keywords. So you can do the same. The chances are in your industry, you've probably got partners, friends, people in your network that serve a similar ICP, are not direct competitors that you can offer to create an article on their site or a page on their site that's going to be useful to their audience. Probably going to give them some SEO value as well if it's written by an expert, if it's quite detailed, quite comprehensive and around your area of expertise. And then you just say, look, we're focusing on this keyword at the moment. Can you give us a do follow link within the article? Most people will say yes. And it's a great way to get some SEO value, but also it builds up the relationship with that partner. So we've done that before. And then from there, we've maybe invited them on our podcast. Maybe we've then done some video content together. Then eventually maybe they set up a referral plan where we send work their way. They send referrals our way. So it builds up good terms for some reciprocal business as well as some good SEO value. That's one of my favorite ways to kind of build backlinks through partnerships.
No, that's very interesting. And actually, given the ecosystem perspective, whether you are on, let's say, a specific SaaS category or where you would be complementary to multiple companies, especially if you are in sales tech and martech, like where we are, and know we are complementary to multiple calendar scheduling tools. We are complementary to project management tools. We are complementary to CRM tools. We are complementary to other ABM platforms, which is there. We are also complementary to kind of like either sales tech, conversational intelligence kind of Gong or Avoma and other things, similar tools as well. So we are, you are complementary to multiple companies. You are not directly competing with them at any level. And most importantly, you are friends, or you can reach out to them even with a cold outbound saying that let's just share links or exchange links, which is there, or even write articles around this, and then you can build it. That's actually can gain cross traffic, which is there, and that's pretty interesting. But what would be the ideal pitch? So what is the offer which you make on the table for them to feel that this is something which is mutually beneficial to make this work?
That's about it. I don't do anything more than that. I literally I used to be the opposite. When I was doing outreach message, I'd send 5 paragraphs, talk about how great we were, how great our product was. But as you know, anyone that's been in sales for more than 5 minutes knows that as soon as you start talking about how great you are, how great your product is, the prospects falls to sleep. It's only when you share that there's value on the table, there's a problem that you can fix for them, or something that they don't know about that could be harming them. That's when it piques their interest. So I'll literally do that painfully short message just with a quick value prop, like got an unusual idea for you to scale traffic and inbound you against a conversation. And then they'll probably reply like, what is it? Or what are you talking about? And then I'll say, oh, right, well, I'm looking to kind of contribute some content for you that will be useful for your audience. I can talk about these topics. Is there any one of those that will be helpful? And if so, I'll get to work on writing a best-in-class article for you. And that's all I did. I did that. For example, I did that for B2B SEO agency. I did that for maybe 5 to 7 companies, got some good links, and that kind of juiced us up to position 1 after I did those other processes. So it doesn't have to be anything more detailed than that. If you're in B2B tech, the chances are these folks that potential partners are probably hanging out on LinkedIn. So if you just send them a simple personalized request with what I just outlined there, and then maybe to stand out once they accept your connection, maybe just a short video message or short audio message that just outlines what I talked about there. That's probably going to be enough, to be honest.
Oh, that's pretty simple. So now we have crossed multiple links. That is like getting started, alternatives, keyword research. Then you start writing those listicles, and then you have also your backlinking strategy so that you can get started with your SEO and start getting traffic. But sidestepping a little bit, we get some questions. Most CEOs, and also there are also content writers and content marketers, content strategists who talk about this pretty extensively. They say that listicles or low quality content, and they don't actually make sense. What we need to do is like more quality of content matters, and more detailed value prop or like detailed things which actually add value are the ones which will have sustainable SEO capabilities or organic capabilities which is there. I would want to take your views around this, and what are the short-term, long-term trade-offs with these things, and to what extent this is true or not true. That's something which I just want to get a clarification on.
Yeah, listicles is one part of the equation, right? I mean, it's more. There's 2 parts to that. There's one part is, are you putting out good content that's, when I say quote unquote good content, it's written by someone with hands-on expertise and authority in the sector that knows what they're talking about, knows target prospects, cares, problems, jobs to be done, etc. so actually can share something that's going to be useful for the reader, i.e. they don't land on the page, see words like turbocharge, 20x revenue, we're going to kind of 100x this, and realize that it's ChatGPT nonsense, and then they just bounce off 2 seconds later. Moreover, it's content that's generally useful. So that's one part to it. And the second part to it, do listicles work? Well, they're working for us, a bunch of SaaS clients and a bunch of tech clients. They seem to still work, but it's not always listicles, right? It's more understanding what Google expects to rank. So doing that technique that I talked about earlier, where you search for the keywords, see what type of content's ranking. And it might not always be a listicle, might be a comparison page, might be a solution page, might be an integration page, might be a pricing page, might be the home page, might be a service page. So you've got to understand that intent before you realize what type of content is already ranking and that you need to structure. And then, yeah, there are, I mean, to go back to play devil's advocate, you are right. There are some articles that are just rubbish that probably are ranking, maybe because the website's already got a ton of authority behind it. So anything it publishes just goes to gold. So some huge competitors can get away with perhaps content that's not as rich, that's not as helpful, that's not as useful, just because they've been around so long. Their website's got so much authority, they've got so many pages, they've got so many links pointing to them that they can maybe get away with that. But then at the end of the day, the prospect might go onto that page, realize that maybe the listicle's thin or the solution is thin, that maybe they don't understand their problems, maybe they're not trustworthy, they don't have some examples, they're not using screenshots, they're not using social proof, they're not addressing customer questions, whatever's relevant on the page, and then they just bounce off it, maybe head to the number 2, number 3 results because that's more useful to them. So there's a lot of things to consider, right?
Got it. No, that's pretty clear. That's in a sense what happens is like it's 2-3 different views, and both might be true, but the thing is, like, as any founders and others, they get confused and they may not even end up investing, and that's something it's good to get clarified within this. One other question which also comes to us, and we have been speaking to a couple of others to actually get like what kind of this thing is, what does technical SEO mean, and what is it that they need to actually get off the table? Because there are agencies which specifically work only on technical SEO, which is so what does that mean? How does the site structure and other thing come together? If you can explain that, that'll be great as well.
Yeah, candidly, I'm probably the worst person to speak to on technical SEO. That's why I have a dev on my team that's way smarter than me, that can do all that kind of stuff. So I can speak to the basics of technical SEO. As you'll probably tell from what I've shared so far, a lot of my experience is strategy, content, publish, update, build links, get it done, stuff that actually works in the field. So there's a lot of agencies that will kind of mess around, spend 30, 60, 90 days purely on technical audits. Before you know, you're 20, 30 grand down the drain. You haven't published any content. So yes, that technical SEO from my experience is more important for super, super detailed sites. And for most B2B startups, not always that relevant. Because until you get to thousands of pages, when you're involving like pragmatic SEO, probably not even going to be that relevant. So you want to follow the basics. Yes, technical SEO, you want a website that loads fast, that works smoothly mobile, tablet, and PC, that addresses the basics that we talked about. So within your URL structure, you've got yourdomain.com / the main keyword you're going for. So in our case, B2B -SEO agency or lead feeder -alternatives, depending on the page. You've got your keyword weaving into the relevant heading tags in your H1, maybe into your H2, H3s. You're weaving in the keyword naturally within the content, but not jamming it or forcing it or spamming it. And that kind of stuff, making sure if you're doing images, you're doing alt tags, you've got a sitemap built out on your website. Your website structure is structurally sound, so your menu navigation is top. It's easy to navigate. Under your services or your features, your integrations, they're all nicely laid out. Maybe you've got some internal links within relevant pages. So for example, if you did maybe you did a page that was like the ultimate guide for whatever your solution is. And within that, you might have an internal link that then links back to one of your solution pages, one of your feature pages. So internal links can be useful for technical SEO when you link back to useful pages that you're talking about. So those are some of the basics to consider. Apart from that, you're not going to need tons of technical SEO until you get to like 1,000-page plus websites. Doing a lot of the get it done attitude stuff that I talk about is going to be a lot more beneficial to you.
Got it. So that's the other part which was out of the way. One more question which has come, I think we'll just take some time off from Kyle, has just asked a question like, what about buying keywords in the short term? while working and waiting for SEO impact.
Buying keywords. Do you mean like, are you still here, Kyle? I'm guessing you mean like high intent keywords, like solution-based keywords, people ready to discuss your stuff. So we've talked about kind of some of that. I mean, most of what I talk to is for either B2B service or B2B technology or SaaS companies. So like I say, most of those quick win keywords are going to be either best X solution or best X tool or best X software or software for X industry or software competitor alternatives or competitor versus Y. So a lot of those are going to be your money keywords to start with and build out solution, service, listicle, article pages for, if that helps. But Kyle, feel free to message Kyle if you want more details or any of those. Happy to go in a bit further. One thing we could talk about if you want is kind of once you've exhausted bottom of the funnel and like where you should look kind of higher up the funnel to build out a content strategy.
Got it. One last thing, which is also more of kind of an observation from our side, when we were building SEOs, is like we used to have content written by multiple content writers, some freelance, some internal, some through an agency, which is there. Our general worry is about measurement, and given that we had an analytics background, we always look to measure. So one easy way to measure is look at number of visitors on the web pages, scroll percentage, time spent on the page, which is a standard basic web analytics, which is there. But what we did at our earlier, when we started with our SEO and this news, we started looking at dog fooding our own product back into it to see like which are the accounts which are coming into each page. So if there's blog A and then blog B, and both have 1,000 visitors over a period of time, whether it's like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, whichever you take a number which is there. For each of those 1,000 visitors, how many of them can we identify which companies came in? Let's say if we can identify 500 companies each, and which among them were in our ICP list, which was there, and also what were they doing after they actually looked at the blog? Are they doing any other call to action or high intent actions like going to the pricing page? Are they looking at this thing? This helped us actually rate and rank each of our content, not just by like, okay, A has more ICP visitors than B. That's one thing. Content of the type of A can actually result in better kind of equally high intent ICP, which is there. That's one thing. Second is also we were able to rate our content writers also in the same way, saying that when this user is actually writing content about this MarTech issue or attribution or this kind of other thing, the quality of inbound is making better, and that's also making sense or kind of relating with that audiences. That's something which we were able to figure out, and then we were able to build on top of that. So in a sense, what we were able to do was like analyze every single piece of content, not just for general overall metrics, but actually in terms of account level metrics, like what kind of traffic they were actually bringing in, which kind of companies are looking at, how much they are time they are spending, more importantly, what they're doing after that, so that in any SEO, conversion to leads will be like 1% or 2%, which is there. So if there are 1,000 visitors, maybe there'll be like 10 leads which can come in, and that will also take some time to come. 1,000 visitors also takes time. But here, by knowing these 1,000 visitors came, of which at least 300 of them are in my ICP buying list, or these are the ones which I want to this thing, then kind of like ahead of time, we were able to say like this blogs are working. So in a sense, trying to give that legitimacy to the SEO efforts much earlier than kind of waiting for 3 months or 6 months. Immediately, as soon as the content starts flowing in, we were able to measure like whether the SEO effort is working, which direction it's working in, where do we need to prioritize so that we cut our losses and move into the directions which are working. That's something which really helped from our measurement and analytics perspective, and that's something which other startups or B2B companies can also use forward to, so that to evaluate content not just at a visitor level, but more importantly at an account and at an ABM level, which is there, so that predictively know which companies are working. That's one thing which we did. Second is use the same data to push it back to SDRs, saying that we wrote a blog about lead feeder alternatives. We wrote a blog about attribution or 10 best practices around attribution. Which are the companies which are coming in? Who is coming and looking at these blogs and other? The thing is obviously high intent. Nobody randomly visits there. Whoever is coming and looking, why don't we give it to the SDR team, asking them to go after the same set of tools? So while you have a SDR team, make sure that they go after the right set of accounts which come to your visitors web page and the thing, and then convert them. That's another thing which we did over a period of time, which can help. That's maybe adding a separate point in terms of your SEO content measurement.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's understanding. A lot of it is about understanding intent, right? So, and you would know a lot more about this than myself, as that's what your tools specialize in. The fact that you can identify those visitors, and then, like you say, understand if your ICP is actually visiting the page. Like you say, even the best websites don't convert more than kind of 2%, 2.5%. So anything above that's going to be amazing. And then if you can identify those visitors, whether that's reaching out with your team, if it's relevant, or retargeting them wherever they hang out with relevant ads, that's going to make sense. The other thing is, like I've mainly talked about kind of bottom of the funnel SEO, which is where you always want to start, like folks that are most likely to search for your solution, search for service, or compare to alternatives. That's how you can see the quickest revenue from it. But quite often with SEO, like if you're building more top of the funnel stuff, like what we call jobs to be done content, i.e. how to and then fix a problem, or how to, I don't know, if you're offering calendar scheduling, maybe how to do something within Google Sheets, which is, I don't know, maybe how to do a social media calendar in Google Sheets, or how to do a scheduler in Google Sheets, which might be the way the prospect's getting the job done because they don't know that your tool exists. So if you're building that kind of content that's then going to rank and then going to say, look, this is one way you can do it in Google Sheets, but actually our tool, our solution makes that 10 times easier. Get a free trial here. This is how we're going to take your pain away. There's a couple of ways you can do it, right? Sometimes it's positioning your product within the content. Other times, if it's like how to fix a problem, that kind of content, it might not be positioning your product. It might be, well, you're here, you're not ready for a demo. Instead, you might want to consider checking out our lead magnet, or checking out our newsletter, or checking out our podcast or our YouTube channel. So understanding where that prospect's at in their journey, because it's not always going to be relevant to force them to take a demo. They might be too early stage, and it might be more relevant to say, look, continue enjoying our content on our YouTube, or try out our live stream, or check out our email list. Like, you've got to understand where that prospect's
that's a
at.
very good point. I mean, companies can tend to become too salesy or too kind of greedy in terms of trying to convert a visitor or something, and they might end up overselling themselves. But very subtly, or very the thing, make sure that they're in the top of the funnel. Let them enjoy the content over a period of time, gain interest, and then ask for the demo organically rather than trying to push it in front of their faces.
That's it. Like if they're searching and they've landed on like an ultimate guide page, well, they're probably not going to be ready for a trial or a demo yet. They probably just want to carry on enjoying some of your content on other channels. Whereas if they've directly looked for the solution, the service, or comparing you, then they probably would be ready for a trial or demo.
That's great. So I know you had made a 73-page battle-tested playbook for SEO, just there, and I'm quite sure that we can't distill all the 73 pages here. But the first 90 days, what you talked about, and also backlinks and the ability to build keywords, all this. What would be the other set of things from your playbooks? And of course, we would also request a link for the playbook so that we can give it to the rest of our audience as well. But more importantly, given that we are in the last 5 minutes, I just want to understand, like, if there are any other insights or any other things like to-dos which founders or companies which are actually starting off with SEO or starting to work on SEO, which they need to prioritize on.
Yep. I'll ignore top of the funnel for now, because if you want that, just go to breakingb2b.com and hit the newsletter tab, and you can unlock that full SEO guide straight away. But if we let's talk about some more unusual link building strategies. So let's say maybe you've got some pages, but they're not quite ranking where you needed them. One of my second favorite strategies is basically doing what we're doing now. So podcasting. So this is an awesome way to get SEO value, but also to build up PR, build brand, and even get inbound leads. So this is the strategy I use that you can steal. Go onto a website called chartable.com. That's chartable.com. This is a podcast directory, podcast listing, podcast rating site.
Okay.
So go on Chartable, then you can click to industries. You can click to, I usually click Apple Podcasts because that tends to have the market share. Then you can choose your target region, US, UK, India, wherever. So I might pick US, UK. Then you can choose the sector. So go whatever sector is relevant to yours. In my case, it's business, then marketing. Yours will be whatever's relevant to yours. Then you can see the top 50, top 100 podcasts in your target market. And within each one, you can see who hosts the show, if they accept guests or not. So what I do is I make a list of all the shows on that chart that accept guests, and then I reach out to them on LinkedIn. I've got a bit of an advantage because I've already got the show and I've got a bit of social proof that I can use behind me. But you might be able to, maybe your founder does it, or whoever that's maybe got a bit of clout behind them. So I'll reach out to the host of these shows, again, usually on LinkedIn, rather than email, just with a personalized request that's, again, painfully short, like, hey, Steve, or hey, Jess, enjoyed your recent show on XYZ. Had an unusual idea for a topic for the show. And I might put PS, I run a top 10 B2B marketing show as well. Can always invite you on. Something like that. And then I might put a call to action like, are you against a conversation, or are you opposed to a conversation? Something super short. Most of those get accepted. And then when let's say we chip away at that. So maybe I do 5 requests a day to hosts. So it's not taking a lot of my time, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. And then of those ones that accept us on the show, we go onto their show, we give a value-packed episode on whatever's our niche. We give actionable tips, advice, strategies, stories. We don't be salesy. We do a simple call to action at the end for them to check out our website, check out our playbook, whatever's relevant. And then after we've done the show, we ask them on their article page where they're going to publish the show to give a backlink to one of our target keywords. I do follow backlink, so it's relevant. It gives us some SEO value. But also, it's just guesting on podcasts from me has been really good for building brand, getting more followers on LinkedIn, getting more email list followers, getting podcast followers, but also getting inbound leads from that. Like some of the shows you guest on, you'll also get direct inquiries from if you've given a valuable show and they've got a good audience behind them. So it's almost like a 3-in-1. You get SEO value, you build an audience, and you can even get inbound leads just by guesting on other people's podcasts. That's a really nice strategy.
Got it. Oh, that's interesting. So one thing is, of course, do something which is parallel, which is more like not just written content, but also videos and podcasting and other thing, and also go after the right set of podcasts based on the podcast listing directory, which is there. Thanks a lot for that. Anything else which we would miss from the 73-page playbook?
Yeah. There's a few. So that's one. Another one in terms of links is similar kind of things. We talked a bit about partnerships for articles, but you can do partnerships more of a podcast, kind of video, kind of content play on that front, and do stuff that's maybe not a guide, maybe not an article. It might be like an ultimate guide that you build out together with partners. So you're kind of taking elements of what they know, elements of what you know, elements of what's battle tested, and building that together. That's one thing. But yeah, we've got a couple minutes left, so I can quickly touch on kind of if we're moving. Let's say we've exhausted bottom of the funnel revenue focused SEO. If we're moving more towards top of funnel, perhaps more higher traffic terms, one way that you can do that is doing what's called jobs to be done content. Usually like how to do X keywords. So one example I've talked about recently is, let's pretend that you are maybe a SaaS solution, a SaaS power dialer tool. So like you serve SDRs or BDRs or sales teams by enabling them to do super fast parallel dialing. So instead of manually dialing on a telephone or their mobile, they can dial, 10 numbers at once, and whoever picks up goes straight through and they can start a conversation. So the old way of doing this was picking up your cell phone, getting a list of numbers and manually typing in. It's, as anyone who's ever been a salesperson know, that takes ages. So what's someone in that situation that's maybe getting frustrated with that? They might type into Google like how to make sales call quicker, or how to dial quicker as an SDR, or how to go through my list faster as an SDR. That might be the problem that they face. You know this better by doing customer calls and customer research. Then in that article that you've crafted out will say, well, this is one way that you could do it if you want to dial faster. Alternatively, there's a thing called a power dialer, and this is the problem of not using power dialer. It takes 2 minutes to type in the number, wait for a connect, and eventually get through. The problem is that's going to cause expenses for leadership. It's going to mean output's super slow, and it's going to impact your meetings held, appointments set. And
at the end of the day, the pipeline is going to be lower, or you're not going to generate. If you're in this way, you're going to generate 10 leads. Earlier, you will be able to generate only 5 leads or 6 leads. That automatically drives the greed and then pushes people into.
Exactly. And then you say, look, this is how our solution hits that. Here's our power dialer tool. We enable you to do 10 at once. Here's a link to take a free trial, and here's a customer that we recently helped. So it's understanding from customer research, from prospect, from sales calls, what's usually the way they're getting the job done before they understand that your tool exists. What's the problem with getting that job done? What's the language they use to describe it, so you can do your how-to XYZ article, and then that can help you kind of fuel that content, talk about the job to be done, the impact of kind of doing it that way, and the new, better way of using your tool. It's really good
Nice.
for SaaS.
That's very interesting. And that's almost, we have come to the end of the show, almost last 15 seconds. Parting thoughts. Where do we find you? Where do we get the playbook? How do we register for the playbook? And how do we get to know more about SEO? Because I don't think this will be done with even 3 or 4 episodes. So
yeah, always lots to share. But yeah, appreciate you having me on. So there's
Mhm.
probably three main ways you can find me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Sam Dunning, where I share daily tips around SEO and websites. You can check out my podcast, Breaking B2B, where we interview marketing practitioners and I share solo episodes on these topics. Or if you're maybe feeling a bit frustrated that competitors are constantly ahead of you on organic search, stealing traffic and inbound opportunities, then you can apply to work with us at breakingb2b.com. Or if you go to the newsletter tab, you can get that guide.
That's great. We'll surely get that done and also put it across to our audience as well. And it was a very, very interesting show. I had actually taken quite a few notes, and I'm going to give a little hard time for my marketing team in terms of like what are the key things which they have done. But thanks a lot for these insights. We'll also then publish shorts around this and take this up for a more larger audience as well. We'll take it out. Sure. Thanks a lot, Sam. Very, very, very happy hosting you. And thanks a lot for all the learnings and sharings.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.